The NBA Summer League, we are right kind of in the middle of it. I think we're about to start NBA Summer League playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. When this video comes out, we might be kind of in playoffs. But it's kind of an exciting time. I frankly hadn't paid attention to it much before this season, but I think maybe with just there's a lot of interesting prospects, and of course, LeBron James's son is in the Summer League. Feels like I'm getting a lot of Summer League content in my consciousness of media consumption, and so I've kind of been interested in the summer league this year, and wanted to kind of explore it a little bit. And really, I think the ultimate question that I have is like, how much does the summer league matter? Because I have a general concept in my head of a lot of guys who have had big summer leagues. You hear some of the headlines, and then some of them go on to, in the grand scheme of the NBA, not matter. Some of them go on to be stars. And so I think it's kind of an interesting time where it's both this training ground for rookies, and there's also a bunch of these guys that are like fighting for their spot in the NBA. And sometimes you get to see someone who's like really obviously good. And it's just a really interesting kind of part of the NBA system. It's something that we don't see as much, I think, in American sports. This kind of like tiered system of teams, where there's like reserve teams. It's definitely I think of like European football leagues. Like you have like the Serie A and then the Serie B, or you have the Premier League and then the Championship and then League One and League Two, and it's like all these teams that are like tiered in order. And obviously this one's a little bit different because they're reserve teams directly for the clubs. Kind of like the G League, but in the summer. Anyway, it's an interesting world, and so I kind of wanted to talk about it with you. But what's your experience with the summer league? Much experience before this year? Kind of what's your experience with it?
Sure. Honestly, I think it's hard to catch a game, right? I mean, it takes place in like the heat of the summer, middle of the summer, where you're out and about, and it only lasts like what, 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. They run the whole thing. I think there's something like each team only plays like 5 games or so you don't get like a ton of content, and it happens really quickly. So I mean, you got to take it in, and if you're a diehard basketball fan, I'm sure like this is your bread and butter. You're like, oh yeah, of course I'm watching summer league. But I think like for a lot more of the casuals, it's not as big of a deal, frankly. And especially, you don't get the big players, right? Like you don't see LeBron James playing in the summer league. You don't see the big guys, but you do get to see the rookies and maybe some of those like sophomore players who had a decent freshman season but are still trying to prove themselves. And I think for me at least, that's what I look forward to the most, is seeing some of those like the really new rising stars, maybe like a European player that didn't get drafted who you've never heard of, but he's a baller. And you wouldn't know that from college ball because you didn't see him in March. And so this is like the first time where you start to get that image of him. And so yeah, as far as like my experience with it, honestly, I've watched like highlights of games so far this summer league, and previous years pretty much nothing. Same thing. I mean, I'll catch a highlight, somebody will drop a ton of points and be like, oh, interesting, I'll keep that name in my head, maybe I'll catch them in the real NBA. But like, I
Yeah,
don't know, I guess like I don't take it. Yeah, I take it with a very, very tiny grain of salt, I'll say.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I totally hear you on that. This year it's going to be really interesting because so we have the rookie class that honestly, and I'm curious what the NBA's like thought on timing is, because we feels like we just had the draft, and then they immediately go in to their team systems, and they play in the summer league, most of the rookies at least, and then most of them will probably get a rookie contract, but they're competing against these guys who are also competing for one of those 15 roster spots, or 18 if you include the 2A spots. So it feels like we turned right around. We like met these guys when they were being drafted. Unless you were, a diehard college basketball fan, you probably only knew like three of the names, and then the draft happens, and then we go right into the summer league. But it's been, I think, a really good show for this year's rookie class. Just to kind of go on the list, Cooper Flag was obviously, I mean, he was the star of the show of this draft. He was like, of course, the number one prospect, and the big storylines surrounding him. And so his first game, he had pretty crappy shooting. Uh, Obviously, if a player shoots really poorly, it's going to be hard to be like, yeah, they look great, but he still looked great in all the other things he was doing. Still looked like he could handle the ball. And then his next game, he turned around and dropped 31 points, which is worth mentioning. We're a little bit desensitized to point totals in the modern NBA, but I believe they play 40 minutes in the summer league, not 48. So,
It's international rules. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So points per minute, 31, it's doing better. And then also just like for a rookie, still a lot of points. Like we shouldn't downplay that. So 31 points. Obviously, Cooper Flag looks great. Dylan Harper has looked super solid. VJ Edgecombe for Philly, I think, has looked awesome. And he's one of those guys that it's like he was kind of a no doubter. He just looked like he was going to be an NBA player, and he looks like that on the court. It's not like he has much to prove. And then, yeah, I think it's been a great showing for this year's rookie class. And
Sure, I'll hop in. I got a few guys. I
yeah,
got a few guys.
please go.
So all right. So my guys, here probably my favorite player so far that we've seen in the summer league is Derek Queen. I remember watching him in March Madness out of Maryland. They made it to the Sweet 16. I think they played Florida tight in the Sweet 16. And he looked awesome, like the whole tournament. And I obviously, I wasn't watching a lot of Maryland basketball in the regular season.
Sure.
That's like maybe my favorite part of March Madness is it's like your first look at these guys and like seeing how they actually perform on like the biggest stage. Like March Madness is like a tier one sporting event in the United States. Like it's right up there with anything else.
It's in the consciousness. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's cool to see him performing well, even if it is just the summer league. I think the summer league plays more like it plays closer to college basketball personally. Like it's a little bit more loose, it's a little bit more messy. It's faster paced, I would say, as opposed to the NBA game. It's slower, a lot more passing, just more structured. And so I think like those players that shine in college ball, you'll see them do pretty well in the summer league too. Another one that I was going to say, Drew Timme is another guy who is going into his sophomore season. Another, like huge March Madness name who actually I thought had a pretty good season last year. He's with the Nets, right? And played pretty good. Last season, I think averaged maybe 10 points. And so like seeing him, and I think he's playing in the summer league this year. He's averaging 12 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, like still looking solid. And then my last one, and this is maybe the guy I'm most excited about with the Timberwolves, Terrence Shannon Jr., who's got averaging 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in the summer league games, which I mean, we're averaging over 2 or 3 games here, but nonetheless, he was his rookie season last year. Didn't really put up any numbers. I think maybe got a little bit of time in the playoffs, but has been looking awesome in the summer league. And he's just one of those guys that, has something to prove and is out there doing it. And so excited for him, excited to see that. Yeah. Oh, I'll also note, sorry, just quickly, you had talked about Cooper Flag a little bit. I think for me, at least, it wasn't so much about him putting up specific numbers. But after watching that first game, I did get a little like nervous. I was like, if he doesn't start performing, it's going to be a little bit awkward. And I think like the Mavericks were going to play him in the summer league until he had a good game, no matter how long it took. And now I personally think they're probably done playing him. I think they'll just let him sit and hang out because he had his one game, got a little bit comfortable in the NBA, and so now she's chilling, and we won't see him until October. But yeah, because I will say I think he's had like a little bit of an aura to him. At least that's the opinion. That's how I've sort of gotten. I saw him on draft night. He got this goatee going on. He's looking a little bit. He's like he knows he's the number one draft pick, and I can't imagine being that young and having all of that generational talent word thrown, that phrase thrown around with your name on it. I don't think like no one should have that phrase thrown around in their brain, especially not when you're 19 years old or whatever. So yeah. But anyways, I'm happy to see that he did perform well.
No, absolutely. I'm rooting for him. He seems like a good kid. There's some part of the whole do the Dallas Mavericks deserve this question that I won't go too far into, but his nickname that I've been hearing so far is the main man, like playing off where he's from, which I actually think is pretty awesome. But it does speak to your point of like he was a number one pick. And is more than that, he was like an extremely hyped number one pick. Like being the number one pick already comes with baggage, but when you're called generational, to your point, it's a big deal. He comes from Duke. He, one and done college player, a lot of stuff behind him. So I hear you on the whole nervous thing. Like, had he not had a big game, it's like, then we start the season and it's like, there's, you can already read the think pieces in your head of people and probably the YouTube video essays of people being like overrated, whatever.
Yeah.
And he 31 points in the summer league. It's not like he is changing the world with that performance, but it's enough to be like, okay, he's going to be solid part of the Mavs rotation at worst. and has obviously got a lot of upside. To the goatee, I kind of think someone should tell him to shave it. I don't think it's the right move for him. He's a handsome enough guy. I just don't think the goatee is what you want. And
That's
we've all
something.
had a bad beard, and your beard is not bad, but maybe in the middle grounds before it was good, maybe it's like, hey, this isn't the thing we want.
It's a card you pull out when you're like 30, maybe.
Sure.
You're in like, you're maybe past your prime a little bit, but you're still trying to maintain something. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, he's got a goatee going on. Okay, maybe he's
Okay.
got a little game left. I think about like, what are they? LeBron when he had the mustache.
Mm,
Yeah, that's what
yes.
I'm thinking about. At some point, every guy goes through that stage.
We can't play that card too early though, Cooper. Like that was draft night. Like what? Now your
Where do you
card
go
you
from
play is
there?
shaving. I don't know. Um, the sophomore part of the summer league I think is really interesting because there you have the rookies, which we went through, and then I think a lot of the interesting guys, and this isn't even just limited to this year's summer league. A lot of the interesting guys I think are the guys who were drafted previously and had a fine rookie season. Maybe they didn't play as much as they wanted to or were expecting to for one reason or another. And this is like the time it's like, okay, if you're actually a true NBA sophomore, you should look out of place in the summer league. Like you should look, yeah, you've had however many games, maybe you played 20 games, like worth of minutes against NBA caliber talent, and you've had a whole year of practicing with your NBA level team. You should look out out of place because you're so much better than everybody. And for a lot of guys, that's what happens. And for some guys, there's not. I This year, Modest Buzelis for the Chicago
Oh
Bulls,
yeah.
like he just he looks better than everybody else. And granted, he was a little bit of an obvious one because he was great as a rookie and one of the
Mhm.
most exciting part of the Chicago Bulls, who aren't the most exciting team right now, but um, he's a big one. And then even just like going back in history, going under the question of like, does the summer league matter? There were a few guys that I was able to find that like being a sophomore in the summer league was huge for them. Devin Booker actually was a big one. He very notably was on that Duke team and wasn't one of the starters. Or excuse me, not Duke, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Sorry, college basketball, everybody. Um, he was on that Kentucky team, was not a starter, didn't play like a ton as a rookie, and then he came into the summer league and was averaging, I think, like 28 points and 6 assists. Like proved that he could run the show in the summer league, and then now he's Devin Booker and is one of the now the highest paid stars in the NBA. Same with Jalen Williams, J-Dub for Oklahoma City, especially coming off. I mean, we just saw he was a arguably number 2, number 3 option on a championship level team, and his rookie season he didn't get to prove that. Sophomore season came into summer league, he scored 21 points in 22 minutes, and then they basically they're like, all right, dude, just we don't need you in summer league anymore. Come to training camp. And so I think it's a big thing for those sophomore guys to be able to prove it. But I mean, it's not a perfect. There are some guys who they're like summer league veterans. They just play summer league again and again because they can't get out of that limbo.
Yeah.
Anyone that you can think of that kind of is in that world of like, this is the summer league guy.
No, I couldn't name you a single
Yeah,
guy. And I think
it's the right
that
answer.
yeah, that says those are the guys that play more than 10, 15, 20 games in the summer league. They're guys you've never heard of
Yeah.
in general. Like they're just not. They're guys that are grinding at the bottom, trying to just get their shot to get a few minutes. It's mainly, I feel like for a lot of those guys, it's mainly just getting a contract. Like that's your big
Mm-hmm.
win. You get signed onto a team, you're stoked. It's not like, oh, I want to compete for a championship. Like that's not where your head's at. Your head is like, I need to make a living and this is how I'm going to do it. So this is how I'm going to show myself. And they have, for whatever reason, they have contacts with the summer league guys. So then they get into the summer league and they keep going. But yeah, I think I was looking into it a little bit. Like some of the guys that had played more than 15 or 20 games and hadn't, no, not one of them was notable to me. The notable guy that that had played a significant amount of games, where a significant number here is 16 games, was Nate Robinson, who is maybe the summer league goat. In my opinion, I don't know if
Yes.
you have anything to say about that, but yeah.
No, I think you're right that he is the summer league goat. And you may have. There's this great anecdote that I'd found about. So Nate Robinson, under 6 feet tall, uh, never really made it as like a true NBA player. Not to use that word pejoratively, but
No, but
he
yeah, he's
was
like a dunk contest anecdote. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I get what you mean.
But I think the thing that from now on, I will remember him most for was that his summer league jersey was retired. And you may say, how can a summer league jersey be retired? And to that, that's a great question. What they did was he had led the Knicks to a 5-0 record in the summer league, and he was like whatever, averaging 20 points, was clearly like the guy on that summer league team. And they literally took his jersey off and they put it like on the wall next to like the fire alarm. And these gyms they're playing in aren't the sexiest gyms. Like they're not hanging it in the rafters or something. I think they literally like pinned it up with like thumbtacks or something on the wall. And I think it stayed there for the rest of that year's summer league, and that was like kind of their way to crown Nate Robinson, which is so much fun. And probably speaks. I've not been to a summer league game, but it probably speaks to like I'm sure it feels more kind of like an open gym where guys are trying stuff and competing, but it doesn't have the same level of like I'm a star. I've done interviews before. I'm media trained. It's like these are guys playing basketball and trying to look as good as they can in front of scouts. And so just imagining them thumbtacking up a Nate Robinson, it was probably still sweaty when they did it. Like they probably
Yeah.
had like two jerseys to pick from. Like it's just a great image.
Dude, I
So totally with
got
you on that.
honestly though, it's better that they did it in some like summer league gymnasium than like at where the Knicks play, like next to
At the
Patrick
Garden.
Ewing, like
Yeah.
at Madison Square Garden. Like, can you imagine? Like that would be just embarrassing. Like obviously you cannot put his jersey up there for a summer league competition. So he only play that? Was it that one season? Or so,
No, I think he's got multiple summer league seasons, but
yeah,
there
that's what
was
I thought.
one
Because if he played 16 games, I
2007.
was like, how did he? Okay, yeah, that's the other
Again,
thing.
not that official of a jersey retirement. They probably let him back on the court with the jersey next
Surely,
year.
surely, yeah. It's funny though, right? Like it's not just a rookie or a sophomore. Like that was my assumption, was like, oh, if you want to play in the summer league, you have to be within like maybe the first 2 years or an undrafted free agent. Like there's something there. There's got to be some rules to it, right? No rules. Anybody can play in the summer league. LeBron James could suit up and go play in the summer league. Gosh, that would be fun.
Man,
So
you'd love to see like Giannis or something play against some of these guys. Just someone
yes,
so out of place. That'd be
yeah.
awesome.
So I've got two guys that are like my summer league shouldn't have been theirs. The first one is not that crazy. The second one is ridiculous. The first one, and this is hometown guy for me, love Jarrett Allen. And Jarrett Allen played in the summer league going into his third season, which this was in 2019. And he was a very solid player in his rookie and sophomore season. I mean, he was, I think a top 10 draft pick. Jarrett Allen is a phenomenal player. He even was when he was with the Nets before he got traded to the Cavs. He had played in the playoffs and he was, I think it was ninth. He ranked ninth that year in defensive player of the year. He received that many the votes. And so he had a great season and then proceeded to play in the summer league that following year, which was crazy. But
He
not
just wanted
as
reps.
crazy.
He
Yeah,
just wanted
seriously.
reps. Love that.
Yeah, when you love the game like that, married to the
Yep.
game. Then the next one is ridiculous though. So this is this player was a reigning defensive player of the year and all-star in 2005. Was the year that he won he was an all-star and defensive player of the year. And that player is Meta World Peace, currently formerly known as Ron Artest. And so I think
Didn't know this.
there's some lore to this and some history. So he had, I don't know if you know the story with Ron Artest. It was gosh, what I can't think of. Oh man, it was Mania at the. Gosh, I'm not gonna be able to
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
But yeah, you know what I'm talking
Malice.
about, the
No, no,
Malice
no.
at the
Malice at the
shoot.
Palace. Yes.
Malice at the Palace. Malice at the
Hmm.
Palace is right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so it was following that season. And after that happened, and if anyone watching hasn't seen that, you have got to see the video of this. It is genuinely one of like the most ridiculous things that has ever happened during a sporting event that didn't revolve around the sport. He like laid a full punch onto a fan, like broad daylight on the court, just laid one into a guy. It was nuts. And so after that, he got suspended. And so I think like as he was getting back from the suspension and trying to get back into playing, they had him go play a few summer league games. But literally, reigning defensive player of the year, all star, played in the all star game, and there he is in the summer league, just beating up on some kids.
Yeah, you got to think it could be reasonable to have some sort of rule where if you've gotten whatever 5 votes for an individual player award, whether it's defensive player of the year or I don't know MVP, or even if you make like an all NBA, so like you got to just not play in the summer league because at that point you're the to your point, some of these guys are trying to pay their bills
Hmm.
and prove that they're worth one of those spots. And let's just and because they only play so many games, a bunch of those guys probably didn't play. They weren't drawn in whatever group Meta World Peace was, and the guys who were, they were like, "Well, that was a waste of a game because I just played against the reigning defensive player of the year." Like,
Yeah.
uh,
And
but it is a funny
there was
image.
one guy. This He was with the Pacers at the time. There's one guy in Indiana who was like, "I'm finally going to get my shot. I am the next guy up. Like this is my chance in the summer league." And they're like, "Hey, we actually turns out Ron Artest is going to play in this game, so you're out." Like that guy, it's gotta hurt.
That's gotta hurt. That's gotta hurt. Back to this year's summer league, which it's so confusing that it's the NBA 2K26 summer league. They got to figure something out with those, with the sponsor. Like I understand that the NBA video game is sponsoring the summer league, but the fact that it's a 2025 summer league and we're being sponsored by 2K26, it adds a little confusion. But I digress. We'd probably be remiss if we didn't mention Yang Hansen, the Portland center who got drafted. He's Chinese
Oh
and
yeah,
he has been like the uh, breakout star of the internet. I mean, honestly, since he got drafted, Portland really reached for him according to most kind of draft boards, and then
Mhm.
there was clips of him and someone called him the Chinese Jokic, and there was some clips of him doing some good passes, and then the TikTok edits started coming out, and now it's this whole like insane free PR that people are giving him. And I got to say, it's really exciting. He looks great on the court, and like you don't really want to compare someone to Nikola Jokic. He seems like a reasonable enough person to be comparing because he is huge and he's got great handles and he can pass and he looks like he can see the court in the same way. But we'd be remiss if we didn't mention our breakout star of this one.
For sure. And pardon me, I was not keeping up with the Chinese club basketball prior to the draft night, so I wasn't familiar with his game. But
Yeah,
I am one of those viewers of those TikTok edits, and yeah, I mean Chinese Jokic is perfect, is aptly named. I don't think they're overreaching with that one. He's got some game. I'm excited to see him play.
absolutely. Last kind of thing I wanted to go through is we've talked a lot about guys that's like the summer league has worked for. Obviously, there was a few who were summer league veterans, which maybe didn't. There's also a few guys who their story of their career is they came in, lit it up in the summer league, and then once they actually got into the NBA rosters, which like their teams deservedly gave them a spot because they're like, oh, this guy's obviously legit. Then the story was that they couldn't hack it. So I went back and looked up the 4 highest scoring games in summer league history, and I'm going to read you these names. If you know any of them, props. They belong to Anthony Morrow, Von Wafer, Anthony Randolph, and Marcus Banks. Um, all 4 of those guys they did have NBA careers to their credit, but they weren't to the level of the average person knowing them. Um, but these were the kind of guys who like I think the scores were 40. Anthony Morrow put up 47, and then the other 3 put up 42, if I'm not mistaken, which is a ton of points.
Yeah.
And the kind of main takeaway I had, and I wasn't there to watch it, but the main takeaway I had is like if a guy goes into the summer league and what you take away from them is that they were really hot shooting. Like Anthony Morrow put up 47 on 18 of 26, which is, I mean, a blazing fast. Like he was clearly hot.
Mhm.
Um, if the takeaway is that they were like a sharpshooter, that's probably more of a red flag than you want it to be. Maybe not a red flag, but that's not a huge asset because guys can get hot. All these basketball players they're amazing. They can always get hot. What you're probably really looking for is more the basics, the fundamentals, like the eye test of like, does it look like they can contribute on an NBA roster? Can they defend? Can they pass? And like, there are guys like last year, Jared McCain was terrible. I think he shot like 26%. And then as soon as he got into the NBA, it was clearly was legit. Wemby shot 2 for 13 in his first game, and it's Wemby. Like, if a guy goes in there and shoots terribly or shoots great, maybe just like that's a factor to ignore compared to the rest of the game. That was kind of my takeaway from like doing that little deep dive there.
Sure. The sample size is so small. Each
Yeah.
team plays 5 games, like not maybe a few. You're not playing that much. You can only get so much out of that, and you got to think there's not a lot of team dynamic. There's not a lot of team chemistry going on in these games. Whereas, like, when you play every other night with with your guys, like, there's so much more that goes into it. That's more than just, well, all right, I got to get hot and play my game tonight, and that's all I care about. Where instead it's like, when you're playing in an NBA season, there's so much more that you care about. And then there's a lot of those intangibles that you don't see on the stat sheet. And so these guys that put up crazy numbers, yeah, they had their time in the summer league, but then for one reason or another, injury or something else, it just like doesn't really work out for them. The one that I got is, and these are kind of sad to talk about, right? You know what I mean? Like sometimes you hear about these guys, like John Wall won the summer league MVP in 2010. I'm sure he played great. And then it's like, and John Wall had a successful NBA career for a time, but same
Absolutely.
sort of thing, man. Like he's one of those guys, you'd watch his high school mixtape and you're like, he's the next guy up.
Yep.
It's
That's
just
Jordan.
insane. Yeah. Yeah. And then, for one reason or another with him, it was injuries. For a lot of these guys, it's injuries. Blake Griffin's another one. He won the summer league MVP. And then, yeah, sometimes, man, I feel like sometimes you can see the writing on the wall. You get like a guy like Blake Griffin. He's too big, too strong to be jumping that high so often.
That's fair.
Well, and actually, he came out of, I think he won the summer league MVP and then got injured like the last game of it, maybe the championship. I don't remember exactly, but he got injured coming out of the summer league and then spent the whole year on the sidelines and then famously won his rookie of the year season or won rookie of the year. Technically what would have been his second season in the NBA, obviously still his rookie season because he didn't play his first year. But like to your point, he got injured. He that was the biggest problem with him at his career. Whenever he played, he was amazing. And he just, he struggled with injuries and can't jump that high and always be healthy.
Yeah. Anyways, the one I was going to mention, the one player that maybe underperformed following the summer league in 2012, and this is an interesting one because they actually named co-MVPs that year while we're on this MVP train.
Sure.
So in 2012, Damian Lillard and Josh Selby were co-MVPs of the summer league that year. Josh Selby played 2 seasons in the NBA with the Grizzlies and then a season with the Cavs. He averaged 2 points a game and never was heard from again. I think he was playing overseas. And so like guys like that. But then you have Damian Lillard, like first ballot Hall of Famer, phenomenal player. And like, it's just, I don't know. Sometimes the summer league feels a little bit like a toss up. I think mainly because it's such a small sample size, but it's still fun.
It's still fun. And I'm sure like, Josh Selby obviously did not have a great NBA career. But it is still cool to like, he went out there and competed and was great for a little bit there. And like, it's still like kind of cool. Obviously it is a little bit sad in the grand scheme of things, because like, I'm sure he didn't set out to be a basketball player who peaked in the summer league, but still something.
Sure.
And I think that's probably where we can leave it. A little inconclusive, but maybe that's just what you do when you play only 6 games. The Oklahoma City Thunder are leading again this summer league. We just saw them win the regular season, and now all their prospects win the summer league. So maybe they're gonna win.
That's what everyone's saying. Is like, they've got they're future proofed. They've got the best players now, and they've got the draft picks and everything in the next few years.
Maybe they do. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't, because the summer league doesn't matter. Time will tell. But cool. Thanks for the discussion.